It's pretty heavy. I can, but I don't want to. Searching for, it's that red sign makes it way faster and easier to do. And I dig a bit of a hole there for myself. I love this technique the most because it keeps you in place all the time. So it has to be pretty perfect. Accidentally touched it with a solder and a pick. Oh yeah, it happens. Don't do that. Hello guys, and welcome to my channel. Today we're making jewelry again, and we will be doing a bangle bracelet, which is like proper bangle bracelet, not a cuff one, because I did a cuff bracelet on this channel not too long ago. So we have open one there. Now we will do a bit different and a bit more difficult, I would say. Bangle bracelet with hinges, even two of them, because I decided that I want even closure with the hinge. And I dig a bit of a hole there for myself because I really wanted to have that puff bangle bracelet. And you have to be more aware when you're playing with this kind of bracelet, because puffiness makes our curves more harder to bend. To push metal down is way easier and it glides more evenly from the first go. Then you would want to puff it out. But the puffiness itself creates more of a sturdy shape. So we can use even thinner metal to create that kind of big bracelet, which is very cool. That's why I really love bangle bracelets. That's why we have a new tool. I will show you this beauty. I won't lift it because it's pretty heavy. I can, but I don't want to. Of course, I left all the oil here and cleaned just parts I was using, so I was playing with those. We will play more with this thing for sure because it's very cool. If you know me, you know I love to hammer metal. I love to create shapes out of basically nothing. So that's very fascinating. I love the finish that hammering does. It takes a lot of patience and strength for sure. Lots of annealing there. But what can I say? It's really worth the effort. And at the end, we really do have a beautiful pieces out of that whole hammering. So I actually started the bracelet already because I had to test new tools, I had to show you, I had to learn how to use it myself. I'm almost ending the bracelet now and I can show you how it's looking already. As you can see, hinge is perfectly working and it's very aligned. I'm very happy how it's looking. We don't have any sanding, any polishing. We have different size of hinges. Okay, so now we're stopping here and you will come back and make this bracelet how it's looking now and come back to me. So let's do that. So the first step always is to prepare our silver, what we need for our projects. So this time I was seeking for 0.7 thickness, so we're rolling that out and cutting that with my new shears from Durston Tools. It was in my wish list for too long, so it's so nice not to saw everything. And that accuracy and that straight edge, I mean. Now we have to anneal our pieces to put a pattern on them, so we have to anneal it good and then we will roll that pattern on. Now you can see what we're searching for. It's that red sign. Then you know that you're good and it's like annealed, and you always can come back if you feel that you need to. And making a pattern, we're kind of making a sandwich there because we want not only to protect our rolling mill, but to have very beautiful and deep impression, which is always like a bit of a gamble how deep you will end up going in. So you have to make sure that you anneal correctly to that step just to have the best results that you need. And now we're testing our second coworker because we need to have some base to create that convex shape out of our flat sheet. And the best way to check how you are hammering, just to look on the bottom, because then you can see shiny and white spaces. And white spaces is always showing you that you haven't even put the hammer there. So that's very good trick just to understand how your hammering is going. And in this part, it's very important to have a proper hammer for this. You want to have something with urethane head, and I hope I'm pronouncing that well. So this material is harder than a rubber, and it's like between a rubber and a plastic. So that's pretty impressive because what it does, it truly pushes down your metal in those strokes. It doesn't mean that other hammers couldn't do that, because I have this hammer just this year and I was punching all my shapes I wanted before, but this makes it way faster and easier to do for sure. As you can see, I'm working on edges here now because we worked in the middle part before. So just be patient, really. The shape will get to the point where it will be looking like a good, beautiful curve. So it's your custom choice now how deep you want that your shape would be curved. And now we're switching other side of this hammerhead and pushing just the edge of our bangle. Finally, we're done with our curves, and now I'm showing you the hammer which I'll be using for flattening the edges of the bangle pieces, because we want to solder hinges on there. We have ways how to do it differently, but I decided that I want to have it flat and bend it inside of the bracelet. Sometimes you can have it outside as well. It depends on your custom preferences. But this time I chose for us to make it inside. We had to anneal it again because we hardened that when we were flattening with the hammer. Saw a straight line where you want your bend would be, and the metal would go along with that and bend very beautifully, as you can see. And this way we are protecting our curve as well. And sometimes it happens that you will break a bit of that beautiful curve you have. So I will show you a bit how to fix it. And for that we need half round pliers and just to press it gently on those edges, and it will correct our bangle bracelet very beautifully. Just don't over push, and you can see we haven't even marked our piece, basically just a bit. And if you want very straight and flat edges, you always can use a metal block. And I'm using the same hammer which came with the bangle forming set, because this hammer is supposed to be used on concave forms. And now we're making hinges. I made this tube myself because I didn't have the size I wanted. I made a bit of mistake just to cut exact size that we need on that bangle edge. Well, it's not exactly a mistake, but I would suggest make it longer because it will be easier to solder. And now I'm showing you how to make the hinge. I love this technique the most because it keeps you in place all the time. We are cutting two straight lines, splitting our piece in 3 equal parts. We're cutting not fully because we want to prepare where our second part of the hinge will go, but we need that space to be still on just because we want to solder that whole hinge very straight and aligned that it could work perfectly. Here we're just mimicking our tube shape just to make that very good connection. And we're soldering our hinge in place. Now you can see better why we create that space for our second part of the hinge would go, because we will cut that out later, but we have that straight line going. Make sure you're lifting your flame towards the hinge part, because we want our solder would flow very evenly, so it has to be even temperature at that point. And here we go. It's perfect solder melting. Now we will cut out that part which we don't need, and we will create the part that will go into the space that we created, but everything looks very aligned. That's why I love this technique, because you could solder those two separately, but it's more fussing around, I would say, so that's why I love this one. Now I'm showing you a bit how I'm cleaning my solder pieces. That's why I love to put balls there. It's easy clean after. And we're making sure that our hinge pieces, like two on the sides, are straight enough. Now I will show you again how I'm soldering the hinge, but this time we are doing that for closure because I decided that we need to close this thing with the hinge as well. So it's just like repeating same steps and moving the flame towards the hinge as I showed you before. And we have a beautiful solder flow there as well. So now we will create a third part of the hinge, which will go in the middle space that we created. So it has to be pretty perfect here. We have to try our best to have it perfectly. And we need to solder that. The best way to do it is to make sure that our soldered parts that we soldered before won't melt again. So we're putting our rouge and water mix on these pieces. It's very cheap way that always works, and really it does work. But we have to make sure that it's dry before we are putting that in our soldering station. It doesn't take long time. Dry looks like this as I'm showing you here, so you can see that it's pretty dry. And now I will say it's the hardest part. We have to make sure that everything is aligned, and our hinge will work just if we would make that hole straight. So I'm really working here to make sure that we have straight. To keep it straight and prevent solder flowing into the tubing. On one side we're using graphite, and for other side we're using copper coated with a rouge because I didn't had any graphite more. So I was thinking, okay, we have to use something that our tubing won't stick if the solder would be melting inside. But it's mainly for keeping everything in place and aligned. And now you can see how solder is going, which wasn't going very well because we have a blob because I accidentally touched it with a solder and a pick. So yeah, it happens. Don't do that. At least try to not do that. And we have another not beautiful soldering. That happened because hinge part was the hottest space and the solder melt there first. But we correct the temperature and it melt pretty good. Okay, after all of that process, it is a long process because it takes some time to anneal everything, to combine everything, to measure, to be aligned all the time, and to solder correctly those hinges. And now we have to close this thing. Of course, we will have to sand and polish. You saw that it got a bit of splashy in some parts, but it's easy fix. We can easily sand that away. Let's do that. Firstly, we're securing our hinge with cold connection and a good planishing hammer. We're just spreading our wire onto the tube, doing that on both sides, and voila, we have a secure hinge there, and that opening is pretty cool. Let's see. And do you remember how I showed you the small part we cut off from the tubing? We will use that too. File that tube a bit off and used for the closure part. I won't show you a lot of closure making, just few steps out of it. So we're doing this part for wire to go in and to make sure that we are just catching that closure inside. Now we're fusing a bit of that sterling silver, and for closure part we're making, it's like a big stud with a head. I'm inventing my own words because I don't know correct term for this, so let me know in the comments. And finally, we do have a closure. And now I'll show you my favorite way how to create patina effect on a silver. And we have to do that on a hot silver as well. It works perfectly. Even if our liquid is a bit out of date as well, it still works quite good. All right, we finished the bangle bracelet and it's looking cool. Cool. That's the word. If you haven't subscribed already, come to my group, write me in the comments, ask me questions, give me suggestions, and talk with me there what you want to see. And yeah, let's talk there, and I will see you in my next one.